But the movie is called Didi. How many of you guys have know about it, or that you guys are coming in blind? All right. How many of you guys know about it? No. Okay, so roughly. And how many of you guys are coming in blind and have no idea what it is? Okay, cool. I'm gonna spoil that. Our movie is called Didi, and Didi means little brother in Mandarin, but it's also a very endearing term that a lot of Chinese parents call their younger sons. It's what my mom used to call me. It's what she still calls me today. And it's about a 13-year-old Taiwanese American boy that takes place in the late 2000s. Very much, when I was 13, when I grew up, and the movie is a very, very personal story, coming-of-age story that was kind of inspired by movies that I loved growing up about adolescence, about childhood. Movies like Stand By Me, Ratcatcher, This Is England, 400 Blows, movies that I thought kind of were about childhood but didn't pander to children. They were about kids, not necessarily for kids. And I wanted to kind of make my version of that movie that starred people who looked and talked and felt like the kids that I grew up with in a time that I felt like had never been accurately represented in cinema, which was the late 2000s, and a time of technology and the internet, with the way we talk and culture. And so this is very much a love letter to that time in my life, my friends, my family. And it was made with so much love, and the fact that, that we get to even screen it and to be at a festival like SIF. SIF actually programmed a short film that I did last year that won the Golden Space Needle. That was fun. And then we got nominated for an Oscar for it, which is crazy. And so this festival has very much been a good luck charm for us. Both my parents went to UW, so I love Seattle. Actually, the short that we did, this is not a spoiler, I guess. The short that we did was about my two grandmothers, and then one of the grandmothers in that short is in this movie. The grandmother in this movie is my grandma.
New career for her, right?
What's up?
It's a new career for her.
New career, yeah. If there's any agents in here, she's still not signed. But, it's truly so special to get to share it with you guys. We'll be back for Q&A afterwards as well, if you want to stick around. And I just want to quickly shout out one of our cast members who's here, Josiah, if you're in here. Stand up. This is Josiah, he's one of our young cast members. He's from Seattle, so this is very much a Seattle homecoming for him. He's so special. I love his performance in this, and we have a very funny audition story that we'll maybe share later. But
we'll invite him up to the stage after the film as well.
We'll do a Q&A. And so, I'm rambling, but this is very much, the way I saw myself in movies like Stand By Me and 400 Blows that never starred anybody who looked or talked or felt like me. I hope that you guys can see a version of yourselves in our movie about a Taiwanese American boy in the late 2000s, even though you may not demographically align with that kid. But I hope it's fun. I hope it's emotional. I hope you have a good time. And we're gonna give out candy afterwards. We got gushers. Anyone want them right now for the movie? I want a Bob though. Who back there? Oh, okay. You can share. Cool. Have fun. Bye bye.
For the screen.
I think it was twofold. I think when, again, going back, I don't know if you guys have seen the end of Stand By Me, but the ending of that is I've never had any friends like the friends I had when I was 12, and I think luckily I'm still good friends with a lot of the people who inspired this movie, and I think now, when we're in our 20s, when we look back at our childhoods, we always reminisce about this time right before high school, and one of my friends said something that was it's like the time where you're the worst version of yourself, having the best time of your life. And it's when you don't really have a sense of identity. You go into high school and you start picking your clubs. You're just kind of this impressionable, for me, boy, but I think for everybody, the most impressionable version of yourself. And I think, there was so much to mine there. I think looking at the personal in terms of the funny and the comedy, there were so many things that we would laugh about. And then I think when I started to enter my 20s and had a lot of distance from this time period in my life, I also got to reflect on a lot of the things that weren't as joyful. A lot of I think things of shame that we kind of explore in this movie. I think what it felt like to grow up as an Asian American boy during that time, where what did culture say about Asian Americans and what did society say about Asian Americans, but also what it felt like to grow up as an Asian American boy in a place that was actually surrounded by Asian Americans, and wanting to kind of unpack that feeling of what does it feel like to be an outsider in a place where you you actually feel like you should belong, where everyone, in a place where everybody looks and talks and sounds and shares a similar culture as you, you still don't feel like you belong because of, again, like what, you know, society had to say about what Asian American, and Asian American men specifically, were at that time, you know, very like emasculated. And so it felt like, in addition to like the funny and the joyful chaos of adolescence, there was also something there to mine that was, you know, both specific but hopefully universal. And so that felt like a worthy journey to kind of go down.
As an Asian American, from a different age.
Candy? Really? Oh, you're clapping for Golfland.
As an Asian American who's not male and also a different age group, I felt that groundedness as well. We see a lot of coming of age stories, but there's something very specific about it. The whole like half Asian thing, I mean, that's probably about. But that was part of my childhood too, remembering like that. So I just really appreciate kind of that specificity of sharing the coming of age story, but from this very, very specific perspective. Thank you so much for that. If you look at the programmers picks, I also have some parent issues, and so the thing about this movie that really struck me was this mother-son relationship. Can you speak a little bit about kind of like talking or that part of your story, and also the amazing casting of Jim?
Smattering of applause. We can give John an applause. I started writing this in, the seeds of it were like 2017. And yeah, I was doing a bunch of other things in between, but I think when you live with a project that long, you hear a lot of filmmakers say like, oh, it's when the story tells you what it wants to be, and I think the first few drafts of this were much more Stand By Me, Superbad coded. Like the family element like was not a part of it at all, and I really didn't want it to be a part of it. I wanted for it to be like this suburban adolescent wasteland where you never felt the parents. And at a certain point, maybe in like 2019, I had like, for some reason I had made a few shorts during those few years, and they were all about my mom for some reason. And then I would like, with this script, I was kind of like, something's missing, I'm not exactly sure what it is, but for some reason, I think I really want to write about my family. I was thinking about that a lot, but especially the relationship I had with my mom. And I think it wasn't until honestly like a year ago or a couple years ago, where I was like, oh, I wanted to write about that relationship because it's like the most of every emotion in my life. It's like the most love, the most joy, but also the most shame and the most like regret, the most, just like the most of everything. And so there was a lot to mine, and I just remember being like, oh, I don't want to be the mom filmmaker. Like, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But it was that thing where it's like, I think that's what the story wants to be, and if I don't do that, I think we're doing the film a disservice. So I kind of did the exercise and went down that path, and I was just like, ooh, I think this is a mother-son story. And it just kind of, allowed the movie, and I was like, oh, that's what it is. It's a story about this immigrant mom and their son and their sort of ability to try to understand each other encased in the trappings of a movie like Stand By Me. And I think once I allowed myself to kind of go down that rabbit hole and make it that movie, that's when it kind of felt alive. Yeah.
And it's with the family, yeah. Speaking of casting, share a little bit about your cast, and I hear there's an audition story to be told.
Should I talk about that? Yeah, I'm curious to hear from your perspective.
Alright, so how I got this role, I'm from here, I'm from Seattle, Washington, but I live in California. And so I got the first audition, another audition, self-tape, recorded, turned it in. And then
Self-tape?
Yeah.
You must have,
Yeah, for the first one. And then came down to Seattle for the summertime, and I got the Zoom call back. And I was at a party at my Auntie Jane's house. She's somewhere in here. And I had all the little cousins. All my little cousins were following me around, and I had to go up to the room, and I had to hide. And I joined the call, and Sean was in there. And you want to tell him, as soon as I joined, you want to tell him what happened?
Can I tell the name? Is that your parents?
It's fine, yeah. They don't care.
Okay.
My mom was actually there behind the computer, yeah.
So backtrack a little bit. We had already started shooting, we're in production, and for some reason that role was just someone that we couldn't crack it. We couldn't find that person to fill that role that was right. And we were about to shoot his scene probably like a week or so.
Like next week.
Yeah, we were like really brushing up again. We were just like, we haven't found that character, and like it's a pivotal moment. And then we saw his self-tape, we're like, oh, he's good. We get on the Zoom, and like we're waiting, his Zoom pops up, and his name is Booty Eater.
I don't remember why it was
This is like after we had like a long day of shooting, and we get on the Zoom with him, and we're just like, what the?
He's my friend.
And I'm like looking at the producer, I was like, I think this kid's perfect. And he's like, yo, what's up? And we're like, hey, Josiah. We're like, yo, so what's up with the name? And he goes, oh, bro, I'm so embarrassed. Let me try and change it. And he's like trying to change it, but he accidentally signs off Zoom. And then we're just like sitting there in this classroom, me and the producers, we're like, I think he's it. And then we get back on, and he's like, I'm so sorry, this is so embarrassing, boy. And we like, I don't know.
I was like, oh shoot, because I didn't know he was chill like that. So I was like, oh, this is bad. And I was literally shaking, my heart dropped. I was like, oh, I'm done for.
And then we did some improv comment, and then at the end of it, we were just like, all right, dude, you got the part. And then he went back to the party and was probably just like a G.
I walked down the stairs, I was feeling like him. I was hyped. I was excited.
What's next for you in your acting career?
Oh well, just auditioning. Yeah, I can't wait to see what's in store for me. Yeah, I'm super excited about this film though. This is definitely probably my favorite. Like to be a part of the cast and crew, it was amazing.
Were you nervous when that wasn't a fun way? You showed up to set and made you cut your hair, right?
What was that?
We showed up on the first day and we were like, we need to cut your hair right now.
Oh yeah,
Are you nervous about that?
Yeah, I got a ride to the set and they're like, we need to cut your hair. I was like, what?
He had like sick K-pop haircut, and I was like, we gotta shave his head.
Thankfully, they just, put some gel, comb it back. Yeah. We didn't cut it? No. You guys said you were in the Oscar.
Do we have any questions in the audience?
I'm curious how you approach storytelling through social media.
How did you approach storytelling through social media?
You want candy? Oh, curveball, sorry. Well, I think that was the thing too. Like the I guess exercise with this movie was always trying to make it more and more and more and more specific. And when I was like, okay, well, it takes place in the late 2000s, there was, to me, like, I worked at Google after I graduated for maybe like 6 years, and what I was doing there was kind of telling a lot of stories on the screens we use every day, and how to take these like very cold, barren interfaces and make them feel human and emotional, and how to take something that we use every day and make it feel alive and relatable. And I think you hear a lot of filmmakers say like, oh, screens aren't cinematic. Every time you cut to a phone, it's like, ugh. But then I was like, I think I know how to do it. I've been doing that at work. And when it came time, and I was like writing this at the same time, and I was like, oh, well, I know how to make a screen cinematic. And it felt like the social media of that period. I mean, there's that great Every Frame a Painting video that's all about like how everyone's allergic to screens in cinema. And I was like, I think I know how to make that feel familiar and alive, and not like the Social Network where it's like internet hacker music, but like kind of mundane, but still have the drama of what it feels like to, talk to your crush and all that kind of stuff. And what delete means when you kind of frame it in a certain context, or what block can mean when you kind of frame it in the right context. And so that felt like an opportunity, to revisit a time period where all the films that I think were made in the late 2000s didn't have the, I think, like, the knowledge of how to, use screens, because, social media was just kind of happening at that time. And I think by the time we learned how to integrate our screens with our stories, the UI had completely changed. And so it felt like fertile territory to just kind of be like, well, let's look back and try and integrate MySpace in a way that feels like how kids actually used MySpace. Because I think all the movies that took place during that used they would only talk about MySpace. And it's like, well, let's just show them using it. Like, what does that drama there also to mine in social media.
The dramatic gasp that happened when he clicked on vlog. The collective, yeah, no, it's amazing. Very dramatic. Another question from the audience right here.
I was curious, given that it sounds like a lot of the characters were direct corollaries from real life, if you had any reservations about portraying certain people certain ways or including certain things that in the like not going to offend any of the real people.
Did you have any reservations about perhaps any direct corollaries to people in your own life?
You have the last candy. I got more to pass out. You can keep it though. You know, you can talk. It's not there. No, not really. You know, I think the impetus always was. I think the container of the movie is autobiographical, but everything within it is not. You know, everything within it kind of became its own orbit. It was, you know, dramatized, fictionalized, changed, and ultimately, like, I wasn't interested in like you know, I have an older sister, I have a mom, and I have a grandma, and all that kind of stuff, and you know, the friends who watch it say, oh, that's me, or like that's snippets of him and him and him, but ultimately, I think I wanted to tell a story. You know, I look at films like 400 Blows and you know, just movies that, or even The Farewell. You know, I had a great meeting, creative advisor meeting with Wang at the Sundance Labs, and she went through a similar exercise where I think both of us, you know, for her, she was like, I had to get all the personal on the page and then completely remove myself from the personal and look at it objectively and look at it as a story and be like, okay, what are the themes of my story and how are we using the personal and autobiographical to serve those themes? And I think that's what ultimately what all the people were based on is what lent itself to that. It was only a way to create a world that felt vivid and lived in and textured, but ultimately we were telling a story. And it's like, what are the themes of our story and how can we use these people and these characters to serve that theme? And so, yeah, every character is like not one-to-one with anybody at this point. So.
We have time for one more question from the supporters.
Well, I think it was two things. One was this movie was sort of reverse engineered for me to be like, I am the right person to direct this, clearly. Like, even though I've never directed a movie, if someone wants to make this movie, they're not going to go find a different director. Like, it makes sense for me to direct this. And I also, you know, I wanted to obviously tell a very personal story in a genre I love, but it was written as a way to, you know, to keep the budget small, and I wasn't writing these like sci-fi set pieces. Like the set pieces are the screen stuff, which we didn't shoot, created, and post. So I was like, we can keep the budget low, guys. And that's kind of how I pitched it too. But it was ultimately like, I don't know. You know, it was that. It was pitching it as a way where it's like, look, we can keep the budget at a certain level, and we did make it pretty small, because and lean on the sort of in-kind community version of this. And we shot it in my hometown, and like a lot of the places we shot at, because we didn't shoot in LA, donated a lot of, you know, their sort of like, you guys, before you can shoot here at Hotline in my restaurant. It was just like I pitched it as sort of like this sort of communal effort, and knowing that like Fremont, the city, would really, really rally behind us, and they did. But also it was a lot of no's too, you know. I think I was writing the script for about 5 years, and it wasn't until 2022 that I was like, okay, I'm ready to make this movie. If someone believes in this movie and the script enough to like finance it maybe not a perfect script by any means, but I will make that movie. And then that's when I sent it to Carlos Lopez Estrada, who was our first producer to sign on board, and we had worked together for a few years at that point. And you know, I think we sent it out too early, to be honest. We sent it to like every company that would take it, and just a year of no's. A lot of like, oh, we love it, but no, or we love it, but it's too small for us actually. And I was like, well, great, give us your leftover money. Like, what are you talking about? And it wasn't until like I think March of we shot this in the summer of 2023, and we started casting it in December of 2022. 2022 or January 2023, but we didn't get the financing for it until March of 2023. So it was kind of like this thing where it was like, look, build the train and they will come. And I was like, look, and that's my producer's plan. I was like, okay, like, cool. And it was March, and I was like, we have no money, guys. Like, I don't think we're shooting this movie. And then within a 30-hour time span, we went from having no money to like 75% of the budget. Just from like a lot of momentum that was happening around the movie, like the short and I Wife Will like screen at South by, we won the jury award and the audience award, so it just felt like there was a lot of momentum. And I remember, I think for everyone, like it's kind of like a Kickstarter, you know, we had no money and no company wants to be that first drop in the bucket. And then one day, one financier, first financier, Spark Pictures, this wonderful woman, Rabina Riccitello, she gave us our first drop in the bucket. She's like, I believe in this movie. It's not enough to make the movie, but it's enough to get the ball going. And then I remember immediately after that, Unapologetic Pictures, who co-financed the movie, they read the script, loved it. We got on a Zoom, and I remember just like, I've never pitched the movie better in my life. It was like 90 minutes, and I was like, And I remember hanging up that Zoom, and I was like, they either never want to talk to me again or like something's gonna happen. And the next day we got an email from them. They were like, we love Sean, we love the movie, we want to co-finance the movie. And we were like, and then we did our due diligence, and then then it became, we're making the movie. So it was very like, I don't know if it's gonna happen to, oh shit, it's gonna happen. Overnight. So.
Congratulations. And then it went on to win the audience award at Sundance for U.S. Dramatic. It's been a whirlwind for you. What's next after this crazy past six months or so?
Well, our movie comes out July 26th. Theatrically, Focus Features bought it out of Sundance, and so that's been it's kind of a pinch myself moment. And every time I get to share it with an audience and like play it in the theater, it really feels like a dream come true. And so I think just kind of, we're traveling a little bit with the movie in June, but just kind of ramping up for the release and hopefully being prepared. And so like, if you guys like the movie, please tell your friends, because we're not going straight to streaming. We're taking the bet to like release this only theatrically. And so I think like movies like ours really live and die by word of mouth, community support. Showing up on opening weekend, it kind of helps set the precedence for the entire release of our movie. And yeah, I think when you buy a ticket to this movie, you're telling the exact people who greenlight movies that the movie is about a 13-year-old Asian American boy on the big screen and deserves a place in culture. So I hope you guys go see it.